Welcome back to the Islamic Worldview series. In this video, we'll be talking about justice. Now, you'd notice that there's something unusual or different from the past two videos in this series. And that is, normally we would take the Qur'anic concept or the Arabic word and explain that. We're going to do the opposite here. We're going to take the English concept or the mainstream understanding and try to explain the Qur'anic worldview of that. Well, even the past two videos was largely about the Islamic worldview, but then again, the order is just going to vary here. Not a big deal, but anyways, just wanted to put that out there. Now, how can you explain justice from the Quranic worldview? Now, there are four words that I want you to get familiar with. One is Mīzān. Allah says in Surah Rahman, وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَعَزَ الْمِيزَانَ وَلَا تُخْسِرُ الْمِيزَانَ. Mīzān is balance. Now, what kind of balance are we talking about? It's the thing that Allah has created this the whole cosmos or existence with. The sense that you're born in this perfect chemistry or perfect, this symmetry or perfect order that, then people come and corrupt and, sort of take advantage of. For instance, there's a there's a weak human being who is scared, but then somebody might come and psychologically torture them. They may become violent with the women or children or whatever have you, and that then goes on to cause psychological imbalance. That's not the only imbalance. Ecological imbalance. You will notice that all of the creation of Allah actually has a purpose for existence. Now, a lot of people talk about, especially the atheists, talk about this problem of evil, wherein you have earthquakes and all of this. This is killing a lot of people. Like, even though we don't really have control. So why did Allah even create all of this? Well, trust me, this is all part of His design, and it's not accidental. It's not everything is not on. Literally nothing actually is on autopilot. He is the one who's actually granting this permission. Although it might seem like everything for you is happening on autopilot, it's Allah who's actually giving it permission for it to exist. If Allah did not want this moment to exist, He can seize this moment to exist. Example, there are deers that feed on, trees and plants, and that becomes the fuel or food for the tigers. They then help balance the whole ecosystem, like so that all the deers don't go and end up eating all the plants and trees. They control the population of the deers, and then all of, like, even think about salmons produce a lot of babies. Now, if all of those salmons were to be alive, which is how we think, in our limited intellect, we don't like death. And that should be the case. But however, you have to understand that Allah has created this whole creation with wisdom and with purpose, with this Mīzān, right? If you notice the untrampled creation of God, you notice that everything has a Mīzān. There are also some people who take advantage of humans' Mīzān, right? So people take psychological advantage of them without any right or justice. That brings me to the second concept of ʿAdl. ʿAdl is what is translated as justice. This is the bare minimum that at least every Muslim should be doing. Now, think about what Allah has asked you to do at this moment in time. Are you supposed to be praying? Are you supposed to be working? Are you supposed to be with your family? And how should you do? What should you do? What is the fard, right? The obligatory actions. Are you doing that in the way that it's supposed to be done, at the time it's supposed to be done? That's the first thing, right? Are you at least not lying to people? Are you at least not harming other people? Like this is the bare minimum, first of all. And the second thing is putting things where they are. Ask yourself, are you delivering the customer what you're promising? Are you delivering this thing on time? Because if you don't do this, you're not being just. Okay? Also, being just means sometimes acting in ways that the other person may not like. It doesn't matter, whether the other person likes what you're doing. Even if you don't like what you're doing, because at the end of the day, you know, the concept of justice is centered around Allah, in the sense that when Allah has asked you to stand for al-Haqq, which is the third concept, this is that all of this creation is designed according to the Qur'an. And the living example is the Sunnah or the Seerah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, when we see, read, listen, and understand that, you understand how this world, how this cosmos is naturally designed, what we're supposed to do. If we are living according to this haqq, right, and if we are doing the bare minimum, then we are, doing ʿAdl, or we're being just. Now, there are times when the next person will not be just to you just because you are, trying to be just. So people will sometimes cross lines. You will have people who take advantage of weaker people, like women and children. You have theft happening in your society. So how should this system work? Well, that is now Qist. Qist actually means institutional justice. This is a system that needs to be established, wherein people whose rights are taken away, those rights are restored. Just because you establish the Islamic courts of justice, that doesn't mean that all of this creation is now perfectly just. Because you will still have some people who are committing sins in private. Now, remember, the institutional justice essentially ensures that at least societally, you don't have forces that are trying or intentionally trying to take you away from, the remembrance of Allah. That's what the Qist is supposed to ensure. However, ultimate justice, like perfect justice, will only be delivered on the day of judgment. This is one thing that a lot of Muslims and non Muslims fail to understand. The reason hell and heaven or paradise, Jannah and Jahannam, exist is because it's not because Allah is offended by our actions if you fall short of justice. It's because the next person was not able to find guidance because you took advantage or you did not do what you were supposed to do. You'd notice, and this is something that I'm going to make a lot of videos about, which is called systems thinking. You'd notice how our world is heavily interconnected, in the sense that you might think that your work or your worth is insignificant, but Allah has designed you and He has created you for a purpose that is bigger than what you might think about yourself. So if you're not doing the thing, other people are being affected. So therefore, them not finding the guidance, they're gonna point their fingers at you on the day of judgment because you failed to live up to what was at least justice, right? So what Allah is going to do is that He's going to deliver the justice on behalf of whose rights was taken away. And this goes back to the notion that I already talked about in my previous video, which is that everyone on the day of judgment will be convinced of their judgment, that they actually deserve their place. Even if the day of judgment exists, and that's going to happen certainly, it's important we inform our Muslims and non Muslims brethren about what's right and what's the truth. Because even if it is to the oppressor, to the wrongdoer, right, people who are ruling the society, but they're not ruling the society on the basis or on the design that Allah has created us with, or according to the Mīzān, then they're oppressing themselves, not just their hereafter, but the hereafter of so many people. They're misleading them. Now, if people are misleading, there are always opportunities for the oppressed, even if they don't have access to the Quran and the Sunnah, if there does exist, people or society or places, if you have no access to the Quran and the Sunnah, you have the fitra within you, right? Everyone has this opportunity to look, this guy is an oppressor, this is oppression, I have got to fight because this is divinely given right of mine and these people. Sometimes you will see non-Muslims. So it's the way we have defined Islam is just this, tribal identity, this group identity. But Islam has to do with our soul, with the identity of the soul, with who the soul surrenders to, submits to, right? It does not submit to itself for what it just likes and thinks is the right thing to do. It values divine approval or pleasure above all. That is who is a Muslim, right? And so I'm not saying you that the Sharia or the fiqh is not needed. What I'm saying is that the Muslims need to understand what the essence of Islam is. And when you understand the place of justice, now you look into what Sharia is trying to do, you'd understand that all of this suddenly starts making sense. That, oh, it's not here just to enforce some kind of abstract rules, like, or some arbitrary rules. It's not just a random group or arbitrary group identity. It's the natural way of life. It is what is going to give you what you are created for, to unlock the true self-actualization, if I could say that. Okay? That self-actualization is going to be grounded in the divine pleasure. So the concept of justice is something that we take extremely lightly, that we can just do whatever we have to do, like go about our business, and then we can do our duas and do our salah, and everything will be plus minus thing, right, balanced out. No, remember this. Paying lip service to people is not sufficient. If you have taken somebody else's rights, let's say inheritance rights, you took away somebody's money without them noticing, or you backbited behind somebody, you did something like that, you have to go and settle that, which means that you need to go and pay them. But then what people do is they go to the masjid and they say La ilaha illallah, but then they don't really understand what that means. And then they think, if I say, oh Allah, forgive me, everything is just settled. So we have this very video game, Super Mario like points system on this side, which is, which we can affect by just doing dua, of course. You know, all of us are asked to make du'as, but du'as have to be backed by actions. If you have taken somebody's rights, go and settle that. Don't just say it. Okay? That is how you're going to live Islam. That is when the non Muslims are going to understand the true utility of Islam. Not just that, but that's when you're going to, maintain balance. That's when the Quran is all going to make sense. If you're just going to pay lip service, you're going to live in this, or you're going to drown in this cognitive dissonance. Okay? I hope this video helps for you to, further reflect upon justice. This is a very important concept that I'm sure many of you guys have already heard about, and we don't remind ourselves and reflect on it, right? So I hope this video helps. With that said, we'll continue in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.